Hey guys, today I'm going to share with you a resource that I use in my class called ReadWorks. Students are able to read passages and answer questions. They have article a days, lots of different things, and all of these things are assigned by me to the students. So I'll just show you how my students would use this resource. Of course, I always start at Google and type in my search bar. So now we're at readworks.org. The student would go to student login. All of my students have a login. It has our class code along with their password. If your student doesn't have a teacher that uses ReadWorks, I'll go back and do another video on how you can set that up as a parent. Especially with COVID-19 going on, ReadWorks has made it where parents can set this up as well. So we'll enter our class code and hit continue. Then the student goes in and they look for their name. I'm going to use our demo student and enter the password. Okay, what the student will do, then they go and they look for assignments to do and submit it so they can see what I have assigned them and what they have submitted. So I'm going to click on a family reunion because that's what's been assigned. And this is the passage. And it also has questions, along with questions that are based on the text. We call those text-dependent questions. So I'll start by just actually practicing and reading this out loud so you have an example of how to do this. A family reunion. In July 2002, a group of orcas swam to a beach in Western Canada. There, they rubbed their bellies on the smooth pebbles along the beach. The group included a young female orca named Springer. Orca facts. An orca is sometimes called a killer whale. A male orca can grow to weigh 9 tons. An orca is a mammal that breathes air. Orcas are dolphins. The following January, a lone orca was spotted in Puget Sound near Washington State. Scientists figured out that the orca was about 2 years old and that she had been orphaned. During spring, the orphaned orca stayed in Puget Sound. She swam near boats, and many people got to see her. They named her Springer. As the months passed, the orca became sickly. She developed a skin rash. Scientists then captured Springer. They treated the rash, and Springer got better, like peas in a pod. After Springer had recovered, scientists decided that they should return the orca to the ocean. Before releasing her, they attached a radio transmitter to Springer. The radio allows scientists to track her. In July, wildlife experts loaded Springer onto a jet-powered boat. The boat traveled out about 400 miles north to Western Canada. Scientists knew that a pod, or group of orcas related to Springer, was there. Springer was put back in the ocean. Soon, scientists saw her swimming with her pod. An aunt and 3 cousins are part of the pod. Springer's family reunion seemed to be a happy one. Okay, and then the student would go to the questions. And they start with comprehension questions. Question 1. According to the text, what is Springer? So what I always have my students to do is to go back to the text. So I'm going to go back to my text. I'm going to remember the question. What is Springer? Okay, so I'll go back. And I'm going to look. Orca, okay. I'm looking for the name Springer because that's what we're talking about, Springer. Let's see. Springer is recovered. The scientists decided that they should return the orca. So what is Springer? Springer is an orca. So I'll go back to my question. And then it gives the option, a male orca or a female orca. So I need to go back to the passage again. Let's see. Here it is. Springer was put back in the ocean. Soon scientists saw her swimming with her pod. That lets me know that she is a female orca. So I had to go back and I had to reread, use a strategy of rereading. What Of which of the following events occurred last in the text? So I'm looking at my question. It says last. So I need to go back to my text and look down at last. Springer was put back in the ocean. Soon scientists saw her swimming with her pod. An aunt and her 3 cousins are part of the pod. Springer's family reunion seemed to be a happy one. Go back to my questions. Scientists helped Springer by treating her skin rash. Scientists decided to return Springer to the ocean. Scientists figured out that Springer had no mother. Scientists saw Springer swimming with her family. Well, when I went back and read my text, I saw that they saw her swimming with her pod. Read these sentences from the text. In July, wildlife experts loaded Springer onto a jet-powered boat. The boat traveled about 400 miles north to western Canada. Scientists knew that a pod or group of orcas related to Springer was there. What conclusion can you draw based on this evidence? So what can we figure out based on what we just read? That wildlife experts have a way of determining which orcas are related to each other. Only a pod or group of orcas related to Springer would have accepted her. Springer could only survive back in the wild if she was with her pod. Springer communicated to the wildlife experts where her pod was located. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to reread it again. In July, wildlife experts loaded Springer onto a jet-powered boat. The boat traveled about 400 miles north to western Canada. Scientists knew that a pod, a group of orcas related to Springer, was there. Let's see. Well, we know that Springer didn't tell the experts that's where her pod was, so I know it's not that. Springer could only survive back in the wild if she was around her pod. Maybe. Only a pod or group of orcas related to Springer would have accepted her. Possibly. Wildlife experts have a way of determining which orcas are related to each other. I'm going to say A, because they traveled 400 miles north to western Canada and they knew that a pod of orcas related to her was there. That one's a little tricky because I know that they can figure out which orcas are related, and they might have thought that Springer would have only been accepted by her pod. What word will the author probably use to describe Springer's personality? Angry, friendly, sad, or dangerous? So I want to go back to my passage and look again. Let's see. It said that they rubbed their bellies on smooth pebbles along the beach, and the group included a young female orca named Springer. So if they could rub their bellies, that seems pretty friendly. And they said she would swim near boats. Many people got to see her. That seems very friendly also. I'm going to go back to my questions, and I'm going to say that she's friendly because none of this sounds angry, sad, or dangerous. What would be another good title for this text? So for a question like this, you have to think about everything that you've read and then look at all the different titles and which one seems best. Saving Springer, Peas in a Pod, Dolphins versus Whale, Puget Sound in Washington State. Well, it really doesn't talk about dolphins, so that's not a good one. Puget Sound in Washington State, well, that's where they were, but I don't think that's really a good title because it doesn't really talk about the orca much. Peas in a Pod, that's possible because it did talk about her pod. Saving Springer, that's a very good one because the text talked about several things that they had to do for Springer and how they got her back. If I go back and look, it tells me how the scientists were trying to return her to the ocean. It tells me how they treated her rash. And it tells me how she had been orphaned and they took her to the place. So I think a good one is Saving Springer. Read the sentences from the text. The following January, a lone orca was spotted in Puget Sound near Washington State. Scientists figured out that the orca was about 2 years old and that she had been orphaned. As used in these sentences, what does the word lone mean? This is where we have to use context clues. Context clues mean looking at the words around the bold word, lone. So we're going to look at all the words around that. The following January, a lone orca was spotted in Puget Sound near Washington State. Scientists figured out that the orca was about 2 years old and that she had been orphaned. So would it mean having fun, needing money, swimming very slowly, or being the only one? It said scientists had to figure out that the orca was about 2 years old and she had been orphaned. Well, we know that an orphan is someone that doesn't have anyone. So if the orca had been orphaned, that means she was the only one. Choose the word that best completes the sentence. Scientists decided to capture Springer. Blank Springer had a skin rash that they wanted to treat. So you're going to look at which word goes in there best. Scientists decided to capture Springer. So Springer had a skin rash? No. However, Springer had a skin rash. But Springer had a skin rash, or because Springer had a skin rash. Well, we know that they wanted to capture her because she had a skin rash that they needed to treat. Now, these are our text-dependent questions. Why did the scientists attach a radio transmitter to Springer before they released her in the ocean? So what we use in my classroom is something called R.A.C.E. It's a way for students to be able to organize their thoughts in a way that is clear and that they're answering the question fully and supporting their answers with text-based evidence. So this is R.A.C.E, what my students use to answer text-dependent questions. R, restate the question. A, answer the question. C, cite the evidence in the text, on the page, in the story. And E, explaining the evidence using words like therefore or this explains. R, A, C, E. Where they restate the question, answer the question, cite their evidence, and try to explain. And as the year goes on, they don't use the letters R-A-C-E, they just put all of that in one. So I'm going to start by restating the question. Why did the scientists attach a radio transmitter to Springer before they released her to the ocean? So I would say the scientists attached a radio transmitter to Springer because. Then I have my answer. I'm going to go back to the text. Why did they do that? Let's see. They attached the radio transmitter to Springer. The radio allows scientists to track her. Okay, so they did it so that they could track her. Answer. Because they wanted to track her. Citing my evidence. That is where I explain where I found it. According to, let's see, what paragraph is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paragraph 5, sentence 1, 2, 3. So according to paragraph 5, sentence 3. And this is where I go back and explain. And I just put everything together when I explain it. The scientists were releasing Springer back in the ocean. However, they wanted to be able to keep track of her. So they attached a radio transmitter to the orca. And that is how I would answer that using R.A.C.E, restating my question, answering my question, citing my evidence, and explaining my thinking. Okay, question 9. It says to discuss 2 ways that the scientists help Springer. So I'm going to answer that the same way that I answered question 8 using R.A.C.E, except for I won't be typing out the R, the A, the C, and the E. I'm going to put it all together. So I'm going to start by restating the question. The 2 ways that the scientists helped Springer were by fixing the rash and by getting her back with her pod. Now I'm going to cite my evidence. This can be found in paragraphs 4 and 6. And then I'll explain everything that I was thinking. The scientist wanted to make sure that Springer was healthy and that when she returned to the ocean, she would be with her pod. And that is how I combine R.A.C.E into a nice little answer without actually typing out the letters. So when the student is done, they would hit submit. All questions are answered. And they return to their assignments. They'll see, oh, I have no assignments to do. And they can see what's submitted and just wait for the teacher to go through. And they can also see their results. It grades all of the comprehension questions, the multiple choice questions for them. And the teacher is the one that is grading their typed answers. So as a teacher, I would go in, see what they've done, look at it, and then I can give them feedback on what they did and either grade it as it is or send it back to them for another chance to answer. And I really like ReadWorks because it can be done on a tablet, a cell phone, an iPad, an laptop, a Chromebook, any device that has the internet. ReadWorks can be used. So this is just something that I think is a really good resource for students and teachers to utilize, not just during distance learning, but all year long. So as I said, I'm going to make another video to show parents how to set up ReadWorks if their child's teacher hasn't already set one up for them. I'll do that at a later time. I hope that this video was helpful for you, not just to learn about another resource, but to see how students go through a text, read the text, and answering it using text-based evidence. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.